go. All right, guys, welcome back to the 24 Down podcast. We are here, episode 25, and we got a special episode for you guys. This is an episode that I think very early on, a lot of people had on their bucket list of episodes they wanted to hear. We got to a little taste of it on the episode 24. So I'm just gonna first introduce my co-host for tonight, Vincent Buddha. Buddha, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Been looking for this forward to this episode since episode 1.
Nice. And then so we'll bring him on right now. Our guest of the evening, episode 25, Carlos. Carlos, how's it going?
It's going well, my friends. Going well. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad I can definitely share with you guys. But thank you for allowing me to be a part of this community, man. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because it started off like when everything started. We tried to, and actually the 24 Down group page, not the podcast, the 24 Down group page. I think I started that maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I was in Pennsylvania. I was hanging out with Phil and Alex Anderson, two of the flag burners.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hanging out with the English twins. We did like a wrestling event, and we were just like reminiscing about the old times and stuff. And I was like, Facebook's got these groups. Like I should just make a 24 Down one. And so I made it. And it for the first like week or two, I think everybody was like, "Oh, this is cool, like a place we can all connect." And then it just kind of died. It just completely died. But it was still there. And then fast forward to 2 years later, we start this podcast, and now that group has started to like get life again. But I say all that to say when we started this podcast, there was a, I don't know if I don't want to say a joke, but like it almost came up like, man, it'd be cool to get Carlos on, thinking like there's no way that was like one, and not in a bad way, but we were just like, how are we gonna like get a hold of him? How are we, and is he gonna want to do it and everything like that? But it quickly became we have to, at some point we have to track him down, get a hold of him, get him on here. And for those of you that listened to episode 24, you heard a little bit of that story, man. We hunted you down and we found you. I'm glad we did. But yeah, so I think a lot of people are excited. Why don't you start off real quick telling us what years you went to Valley Forge? And then, go ahead.
No, go. What's you had a follow up there?
Yeah, and then I was just going to say, if you want to jump right into just giving us a overview of your life post Valley Forge, what from that when you left Valley Forge to now where you are today.
Right. So it all started 2003 to 2007. So I'll tell you this. My youth pastor at the time had mentioned something about Valley Forge. Never been there, never even seen it. I believe I called up or set up the meeting. I still never saw the school. The night before I was going, I had a dream of 3 bricks. And I drive up, dude, and the whole school's full of bricks. I was like, this is where I need to go. This is where I need to be. I felt like that was definitely a part of like this vision. And I applied, and I got in and I was ready to go. Post Valley Forge, I felt like I was ready to conquer the world until the world smacked me in the face. And I remember, well, before I left school, I told my dad that I wasn't coming back to New York. I really wanted to stay in Pennsylvania. I really fell in love with the state, the people, and the amount of evolution that took place during that time I was at Valley Forge. So my dad at the time, he decided to buy a house in Pennsylvania. My grandmother would live in the house, and I would live there with her. So I moved there. My degree at Valley Forge was in pastoral counseling, but more just focusing on counseling with like a spiritual aspect to it. And I started working with my first job, a job that I knew would never go back to, was working with children with emotional disorders. And I started that And I got the job fairly quickly, probably in like 2 weeks. I already had a job ready to go. And, you know, in a very small amount of time, I began to recognize that this is not what I want to be doing right now. So let me tell you the experience of starting out in this. The concept is very interesting, where you're taking kids living who have emotional disorders, parents who have destructive lifestyles, and they've either removed them from the home and now they're situated there. They live there, go to school there, they're there 24/7. Um, and like Matthias, I would have to put these young kids into restraints, because they would just start acting up, and it would evolve into an altercation with another child or another young adult. It got to the point where this kid was about 6 years old, and he had the strength of like an 18-year-old person. And this kid punched me in the face, jumped out the window, and I jumped out the window after him because I had to make sure that he didn't throw himself into further harm. And I began to realize that once your face starts twitching, there's something wrong. That was the amount of stress that I was under, having to work with kids with very difficult emotional disorders. So I said, you know what? I lasted there for about 8 months, and I said, I'm going to do everything else but this. And I went on to work for UPS part-time at night. I also started teaching breakdancing classes, and I started to work at like a front desk at a drug and alcohol facility. So I kind of went back to my roots a little bit with the whole teaching, with breakdancing. That was something that I did prior to Valley Forge excessively. And it was good for quite a while. And then I got an opportunity to take those 3 jobs and just have one full-time job as a case manager working for a drug and alcohol facility, specifically with the population of the prison population coming out of Bucks County Prison. And that's where I want to say a career in case management began to unfold, with a demographic of young people and adults struggling with addiction. And I began to go into the prisons, meet with them, trying to really structure a support system so that they have a transition to the community as smoothly as possible. And then I began to recognize, because the case management community within the Bucks County and Philadelphia region, it's a small community. You all kind of begin to know each other and get to know who's from where when you go to these conventions. And after probably a couple of years, I began to realize who was like the head honcho of this whole community. And I said, that's where I need to work for. They were kind of like, think of it like the Google of like that industry. So the opportunity came up. I eventually was able to be a part of that team, that company called Action Wellness in the city of Philadelphia. And it's probably one of the most diverse community you could be a part of. And now was working with individuals that were in the Philadelphia prison population that struggle with addiction and also have been diagnosed with infectious diseases. So now I was in the realm of working in a population where I'm working with judges, doctors, probation officers, working with different organizations and trying to help this demographic transition now from the Philadelphia community prison system into the Philadelphia community. And I want to say that was probably one of bigger challenges you begin to see, and not just for the individual, but within the judicial system, and people trying to really address their own medical obligations as they transition through life. And I did it for years. I was within different organizations, but specifically that organization was the one where I ended up really growing with that department, with the prison department. And once again, you start meeting people, getting to know people, and evolving as a group, as a community advocate, and trying to really get help for that demographic. I began to just recognize for me that there needed to be another step. For me, I was always thinking, what's next? What's next? And I got to the point where I believe it was I don't want to say it was either the district attorney's office or it was the Philadelphia probation system, where I got there was a contract for coming from Washington, D.C. to the Philadelphia community to head up a program similar to the same program that I was a part of. And at the same time, I got an interview with John Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. And at that point, I feel like I've reached the major leagues. This is it. I'm either going to work for the probation / district attorney's office, or I'm working for John Hopkins Hospital, and I'm moving. I've never been afraid to move. I've always been the type of person that I see opportunity. I try to evaluate what's out there, and I just move forward. At that time, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting how this all plays out, because I've now been in this industry for years, quite a few years, and I feel like it's been essentially a career. And the offers came my way, and I actually accepted the John Hopkins offer, and I literally called them up like 2 days later, like, I'm not taking it, because I felt like at that time I was sacrificing more than they were. I mean, I really set roots in Philadelphia. I built relationship networks where I felt like, more needs to be put on the table. And I feel like when you have that experience, in whether you're in ministry or whether you're in automotive or whatever industry you're in, and you've been in that industry for quite a while, you're bringing a lot to the table, a lot of experience. And when I decided that it's time for a change, and I totally changed my whole direction, and I went into the business arena, where I started working. It all started at a barbecue. This one kid said he worked for Sherwin-Williams Paint Store, and he told me like kind of the progression of how he moved up and became running his own store. And I was like, that's interesting. He told me, economically what he would be making or what you would be starting at. And I was like, oh, that would be an easy transition. Like, financial wise, wouldn't be much different. But the opportunity to grow with the Fortune 500 company was there. And I said, let's do it. So I threw my hat in the ring. They hired me as the manager in training, and I began on that new path, something that I've never experienced before. So I started learning the paint game, what kind of paint you need for your walls, for the exterior of your buildings. It's really a science, and it takes a lot of technique and understanding of what type of application you would need as you paint whatever surface you want to paint. I thought this was it. This was going to be me moving up the corporate ladder. I'm going to be running my own shows here, man. Once again, life teaches you that you may think that you're painting your own painting, but you will soon realize that you're not. So I started in Philadelphia as a assistant manager. And I want to say that I grew that store probably 20% by reaching the Latino population. And within 7 months, I was running a $1.3 million operation, running my own store. So I was like, man, I'm good at this. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to beat everybody. I'm going to beat them in sales. I'm going to sell the can. I'm going to sell the floor. Whatever I could sell, I'm going to sell it. I didn't care. I was negotiating with anyone. I just didn't care about the rules. At that point, they're like, well, I mean, I won't go into the rules, but ultimately I was like, I'm going to do everything to win. That's all I cared about in this industry, because that's what it was about. When you're in sales, you're up against your competition, Home Depot, or even your own brand. So now I take that move. Now I moved to, so I'm in Philadelphia. I moved to the Lehigh Valley where I'm at now, but I was living in Allentown, PA. And I'm running this $1.3 million operation, dude. And I'll be honest with you, I was not prepared because I went from probably a $500,000 operation to now they pretty much gave me the biggest store that was available of what the options that were in the area. And I thought looking back, that was a big mistake from upper management because you can't go from a $500,000 operation to a $1.3 million operation and think you can run that like a machine. But I feel like I sold myself at the interview at the district management level. And I began to realize that you have no life. When you are running that type of operation, you're always on call. It doesn't stop. It's something that you begin to recognize, what is more important when it comes to the quality of life. You either having life outside of work or it just doesn't stop. You're getting text messages that this order needs to be in by tomorrow. And now I'm driving to 3 different stores to make sure I have this product for Bob the Builder. And you're like, when is it going to stop? And it was really affecting my personal life. It was affecting my health. Once again, my face starts twitching. It's like 2008 all over again. And I'm like, something needs to change again. And I'm a big believer, man, that stress can really affect your mental health, your family, your friendships, and eventually everything around you is crumbling while you're trying to run an operation because you want to be successful. So I said, you know what? I'm getting out of this, and I'm doing something else. So I got the opportunity to transition once again to a different industry, which is a lot less stress. Right now I'm working from home, but it's probably the easiest job I've ever had in my life. I'm not making tons of money, but I realized that quality of life really is more important than me making a bonus or higher salary. And you know what? The transitions of going from the for-profit industry that was all about selling everything, the walls, the kitchen, the sink, to just focusing back on the people. But while I was there, I met a lot of good people at Sherwin-Williams, different industries, not just painters, investors, flippers, landlords. And I began to hear the stories that these individuals brought to the table. And I felt like, you know what? I feel like I can do that too. So last year, me and my dad, we started our own business. It's called Vicento Properties, where we acquire properties and we rent them out. And it all started, by taking a risk. And right now, that's something that I want to continue doing, and grow and hopefully leave behind, with, if I ever have future kids or my sister's kids, they can at least have a home that they know that's either paid off or the mortgage almost paid off and they won't have to worry about it. So that's essentially where I'm at now. I have a full-time job, and now I'm also a landlord of and running the Vicento Properties company. And my dad's my partner in this whole operation.
That's awesome. I mean, I look at, just off the top of my head, and I look at there's probably some parallel of being a landlord and being an RA,
Oh yeah. You could say that again.
So I like, again, like looking back, it's another thing that like because from what I'm hearing from your story and what I know of you, living with you for the year on campus, you kind of like, things happen in your life that then end up manifesting later for this reason or that reason. And you kind of have that, like, that's like kind of a theme in your life. And so going back to like, maybe that's why you were in RAs, because it led you to being the point that you are now today. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is ironic actually.
But going even further back, he's working with troubled youth. You worked with troubled youth at 24 Down. That's number one. Then number two, with the whole paint, Sherman Williams. I mean,
Yeah.
walls and paint
Oh
on the
yeah.
walls.
Yeah. I mean, I literally could go back to 24 Down and fix those holes for you, you know?
That's
Oh, God.
great, man. That's
It,
great.
there's a story, and we brought it up a little bit, I think,
Mm.
in the episode 24. And this was one of the infamous times where we we're giving, well, we weren't really giving you a hard time, but we did something wrong and we were real quiet about it. And
Mhm.
it was we had paintballs, but we had paintball guns, but I think within 20 at this particular time, like nobody used a paintball gun. They just took
Yeah.
like the little paintballs themselves and threw them. I don't remember, we threw them against the wall or something like that.
Mhm.
And the story goes that like we remember like you were coming and you were like full like CSI, like I'm gonna figure out like, okay, what is this? Where did it come from? That kind of thing.
Mhm.
Well, now had you had your Sherwin Williams background at the time, like we would have all been screwed because you would have
Oh
like,
yeah, without a doubt.
got it, got it all like, okay, this is
Yeah.
paintball. This is grade 3 paint here.
That's right, man. That's right. I'll just be looking for a fingerprint at that point, man.
Right.
But see, this is how we got out of it, because we were very, very immature. So we tried to just make any type of argument, we tried to win. So what you said was we were shooting at each other,
Yeah.
paintball guns. So we got out of it because we weren't shooting each other paintball guns. We were just throwing the paintballs at each other, but still making a mess. So it was like we were still telling the truth, but with getting out of trouble. So
Yeah.
that's how we always did it. That's how Hat always did it. That's how
Yeah.
all of us, we did it. We always tried to make the argument where we were still kind of telling the truth because we were Christians. But we kind of just changed it up a little bit. So
Yeah.
if you said we were
Yeah.
shooting, no, we didn't do that. But we did the paint. That was
Yeah,
us.
yeah. Dude,
Yeah,
I just remember walking out and I'm seeing orange paint on the walls. I'm like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Because I honestly didn't hear anything. I was like, because you can't miss a paintball gun. Those things are not like quiet. I mean, they may be quiet ones, but they're not that quiet.
you would think, you would think that if you would hear, whether it's the the trigger going off, you would, if nothing else, you'd at least hear the impact of the paintball hitting the
tight is that,
wall,
man?
so yeah, I think and Buddha's right, we would find the one little piece of our argument where it was like, okay, well, this part's not true, and we would just argue that so that the whole thing seemed like it
Yeah,
wasn't.
no,
I still
that's
do that with
hilarious.
my wife though.
Hey man, it's a skill that you build at the forge at 24 Down, man, and now you just perfected it.
Right.
I did.
Yeah, it's funny. My mom used to always tell me that like growing up, and even like she still tells me all the time. She's like, "You really like you missed your calling. You should have been a lawyer." Because I'll sit and I'll like argue with
Mhm.
anybody, but like I'll find the little piece that I can argue
Just
about,
run
and
with
I'll
it.
sell
Just
you
run
on
with
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes
crazy.
like when Hat would just keep on going back and forth with you, like
Mhm.
sometimes in my head I'll be like, Hat, just let it go, man. But he wouldn't let it go. He just
Yeah.
always had to keep going. It was so funny, man. But I did have a couple of follow-up questions
Okay.
from your update, and you've done so many things in what has it been now?
Mhm.
14 years, maybe 15 years or so.
Yeah.
And so just two follow-up questions that I had was has there been any female prospects along the way? That's number one. You did mention maybe future kids, if you do
Yeah.
have them. And so I just
Yeah.
want to know that. And then the second one was what does church, God, and ministry look like for you?
Yeah. All right. So let's go with the females there. I would say that I'm definitely learning that it is hard to be um, uh, I, I have to there's a lot for me to work on, put it that way, right? So I'll tell you this. I'm divorced. A lot of that, I'll start there. A lot of that was really, I think, when you leave a community like Valley Forge and you go into the real world. I'll tell you this. I left Valley Forge, started taking salsa lessons, met a girl from the Forge, and started dating her just because we had a connection from the Valley Forge. And it really was nothing. I mean, it's not someone I would have even really paid attention to, but because you go through kind of like Forge withdrawal, and and you're trying to connect with your past, and you don't know how to, but you find someone from the past and you connect, and that's what connects you. That lasted about 2 weeks, but um, uh, I learned that in marriage that you can make decisions very prematurely, and that's pretty much what that was in my context. And great person. I just think that we were just very different people, and eventually that was my decision to go our separate ways, because I think, and when I saw the future, I just didn't see each other being on the same page. And I feel like, why wait 5, 10 years when I already know that that person is not going to be moving in the same direction that I'm trying to move. And that was, I don't even remember when I got married, to be honest. It was such a long time ago. Um, and then I went into a long-term relationship, which brought me to the Lehigh Valley. And that's why essentially what really motivated that move, and that transition. And right now I'm just single, man. So I really took this time, and I honestly went from focusing on family, like that's the trajectory that I thought I was going, to now just focusing on building um, this new chapter of my life, which is me and my dad just trying to grow the business, acquire properties, and rent them out, focus on just having a balanced life. And at this point in my life, I would say I probably won't be settling down to I retire. I really just want to be ambitious and get my goals accomplished, before I jump into something with that requires a lot of responsibility, having a family, as you know. Um, and I think probably have a lot to learn before I jump in that circle again. Um, okay, ministry. So this touches upon like kind of like pre Valley Forge. I was in ministry for quite a while, pre Valley Forge. Um, I want to say like 2 years straight doing more like hip hop ministry, and that's where the whole breakdancing really comes into play. When I got to the Forge, I feel like I went through the Forge, and you went through one of the best and not so great speakers, but you pretty much had church every day. Um, so right now, to be honest with you, I don't go to church on a consistent basis. I feel like for me, I don't need to go like to a brick and mortar church to really have a relationship with God. Um, but it's something that I believe is beneficial to have that type of community. Um, but it's almost one of those things where I feel like at this point, I I I am the church, in a sense. Me and my friends and people I talk to. Um, so that's pretty much my life and spirituality wise presently. Um, did I miss anything there?
I think you hit on both those questions.
Okay.
It's good. When you talk about like the females and starting a family and things like that, and you talk about how your focus right now is on your business. I mean, that is who you are. I don't know. I don't know how you. So I only knew you as a student for a year because it was my first year was your
Yeah.
last year, but I don't know how you managed to be RA of probably the craziest floor on campus, but also like be such a meticulous student. And I know like I saw that drive in you
Mm-hmm.
then. I see it now where like you're just so determined to get what you've set your mind to get it done. And I admire that. I think that's a very, very Carlos trait, and it's a very admirable trait as well.
No, I appreciate it, brother. I mean, what I realized that, a family requires a lot of attention, man. And and it, and the people that are able to balance that, work, family, I tip my hat to them, man. It's a full-time job. Just and if I just see what other family members are able to do, trying to juggle that. It is tough, but it's also, I think, something very special when you have your own children. You see that, and I think people evolve when they do have a family. Something changes. Everyone says that something changes. I was listening to I don't know his real name, but The Rock from wrestling. And he was saying that himself. He's like, when I had my first child, it's like everything changed. I don't know what that looks like, but that must be something very special. And I want to really have the time for a family. And I know what I'm trying to do right now, I won't be able to give them the time that they will need to really raise them the way I would want to raise them. Because for me to be a parent, you need to be present. And if you can't be present, I don't know how much impact you're going to have compared to the rest of the world on your own child.
Yeah, Dwayne The Rock Johnson is actually
There we go.
Josh's favorite wrestler of all time. But
Is it really?
actually, is one of mine. I really liked him. And
one of my least favorite wrestlers of all time. But.
Exactly. But yeah, man, I know what you're saying about just having properties and family. So I have a family. Obviously, I have 3 kids, and we actually have 2 properties in our family, and I don't want anything to do with them. I told my parents that. I told my brother. I said I'm not doing anything because it's like a property is like either a family or like a child. You have to take care of it so much, and you have to make sure that the renters don't, beat it up too bad, and you gotta the upkeep and stuff. So definitely, I mean, I definitely understand that. So you got your hands full, and yeah, man, I would say somewhere around like half of our 24 down family, they're in kind of like the same boat as what you're saying with God and with ministry and with church. It's like they still believe in God, they still believe in Jesus, but they have a different relationship with the church for many different reasons. Some of them are the same, but a lot of it is we went to church every day, and then they wanted us to go to church over the weekends, and I did enjoy it. Everyone's different. I did kind of enjoy it. The reason why I chose Valley Forge as my college was only because of the chapels. So when I went to the chapels, I remember I really liked it. However, some people were a little boring and stuff and whatnot, but I still do enjoy church, even though I don't get to enjoy church like I used to. It's like I'm running church now, but I definitely understand that, man. But yeah, take a look at YCA one day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. I think that Valley Forge, it changed me, and that's something that I'll probably get into later down in the podcast. I had sent Josh proof of that, and I can't even put into words the evolution. Well, I'm gonna try to put into words, but the reality, the evolution that took place from pre-Valley Forge to that first year to go into the second year. When I came, I mean, huge changes, and I believe that the good, bad, the ugly, Valley Forge gave us 24 down, and it impacted all of us in different ways, and it's like a family. There's nothing perfect in a family. The family has the great abilities to push the right buttons, and I feel like Valley Forge really did that for many of us, and for different reasons, different ways. And some of us learned different lessons towards the end, or towards the beginning, or the middle of their relationship with Valley Forge. But I can tell you this, that I wouldn't change it. I would not change it because I wish the price would be different, but but the experience, it's definitely impact who I am, in ways that I can't even understand, and I am grateful for it. But I also understand that I stuck to my own lane, and I did not move away from that lane, and I would say that I was really married to 24 Down. I did not want to veer off course, just because I felt like that's the only way I can at least keep this afloat. At least in my head. It was in my head. Maybe it was just in my head. And that's what I did. It was school, 24 Down. Everything else just didn't matter.
So you talk about like, and you touched on it a little bit, the transition and stuff like that. The first question I have for you is am I able to share that picture that you sent?
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
All right. So for those of you listening right now, check the Facebook comments on the post when this episode actually gets posted. I will post a comment in there. And then what this photo is, it's a photo of a few different of Carlos's student IDs. But why don't you run us through that transition a little bit right there?
Okay. So the first ID is right before college. I think it was at a community college in New York somewhere where we had to take a photo ID to go visit it. And I had like an afro. And at that time I was growing my hair out, man. And that was just the style, dude. I had my hair when I was at that moment would hit maybe past my neck. By the time I got to Valley Forge, my hair was very curly. I could pull it all the way down to the back of my back. So when I got there, the first thing I get told, you're gonna have to cut your hair. I was like, what? So Josh, you met the reformed Carlos. But I could definitely, if you met the Carlos that first got there, you'd be like, we would probably connect. We probably would have connected a lot more. Okay. But I was very much, but I understood that, you know what, at that point, I had to accept it for what it was, because I knew that I needed to be there. I didn't know why, but I needed to be there. So I went from having like, Shirley Temple curls to having to shave my head, and I donated the hair to Locks of Love at the time. The third picture is really that change that took place, where that whole persona of having to be serious, having to just present something that was not embracive, if that's even a word. Just really I let it go. I let it go. And a lot of part of that was between that, my freshman year to sophomore year of college. And when I came back and I would visit my friends in New York, they'd be like, dude, we don't even understand like who you are. And I give you an example of this. One of my first classes, my first semester was public speaking. And you have to do an informative speech, persuasive speech, and some other speech. So I get up there and I start talking. But you don't realize how you sound to people until you have to speak correctly, to be honest with you. I get up there and I start using a lot of New York jargon. So instead of calling something a car, I call it a whip. Instead of saying that, man, that's cool, I'll say that's dope. So I used a lot. I mean, it was excessive. So it was so bad that the teacher came up to me after class, said, Carlos, we have no idea what you're saying. I mean, didn't have a clue. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I had to start working on taking out all the slang out of my vocabulary, because you just can't go in front of people and start speaking the way you would speak to your friends. And probably in that one semester, I removed all my jargon from New York, where I just didn't use it at all. And that was one of the hugest changes that I can really accredit to the community of Valley Forge, where they forced me to grow as a person, where I spoke more appropriate, um, and presented myself differently. And what, I look back and say that had to happen. That was a part of that change, that evolution. And I really was shocked. And every time I would speak, it would still come out. I would say something like, that chick looks pretty. And he's like, Carlos, what's a chick? What's a whip? What is dope? I don't understand this. So you begin to recognize that these are things that had to change. And within one semester, that was what's taking place. Not just the way I spoke, the way I dressed, the way I presented myself. So I go from the breakdancing, long-haired, New York speaking Carlos to short hair, no slang, and wearing a tie Carlos. And it definitely really pushed me to be a person that I needed to be at that moment. And I definitely credit that to Valley Forge, man, and the community that was existing at that time period. So those changes, man, those are real. And I think those pictures hopefully demonstrate that evolution.
So Carlos, you went that way. I think Josh went the opposite way. He got the gauges, he got the nose ring.
Yeah, pretty
All the-
much, man.
all
Pretty
the
much.
tattoo, yeah. No, it's so something that I just kind of, I'm glad that you brought all this up. So everybody, it's very well documented on this podcast. Generally, my thoughts of the school, and I've always wanted to make it clear that like my thoughts are not the thoughts of everybody else on this podcast. Because just because I have a bunch of jaded thoughts and feelings doesn't mean everybody that comes on this podcast shares those feelings. So like, let me say that first and foremost. But what's kind of cool to me is that at first you're telling the story about how you come to campus and you've got your long hair and they make you cut it. And it's mind baffling to me that like you're telling a college student, you're telling an adult that's paying money to come to this campus, you need to look this way. So like for me, like at first I hear you telling me this, I'm like, it's crazy. Like how can they do that? But you then go in to say like that change, that forced change was good for you. Like it's what made. So I say all that to say like it's really cool because you and I could go in there exactly the same. We could have the same exact haircut. They could tell me and you the exact same thing, and I'm upset about it, and you're looking at it from this other perspective. So that's why, like, to me, it is really important to really stress like my thoughts and opinions are not those of everybody else. But I do appreciate the fact that you brought that up, and that like, that's a different perspective that I didn't think of. For you to be in the place that you were, you needed to go through that change. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, you know what? I think Valley Forge was going through changes, and we may not know the details. I don't know, but I think with every generation comes different perspective, different acceptances, and in that time under Don Meyer, I would say it was probably more on the conservative side. If you could to compare it with maybe certain Bible schools. I mean, I'm not sure if Easton or other Bible schools had those kind of regulations, but I would say that when you look back in life, I'm sure Don Meyer would probably look back like maybe we could have not had that. And I think as a university and even upper leadership, I think Telestra probably would agree. There were probably things that could have been better. They could have done better. And I think also for a lot of people, maybe on the lower end of leadership, like RAs, they were just learning how to be leaders then. That was their first position, or maybe that was their first year of being a professor. but I can tell you this, man, Valley Forge for me, um, it was definitely a cornerstone to helping me to grow as a person. It wasn't perfect, but I also, like I said, and I was, I was very focused on just two things: school and 24 down. I didn't date anybody at Valley Forge, dude. I really just wanted to make sure that while I was there, I devoted myself to what the responsibility that I've accepted, which was, being an RA and making sure that I got out of there with the best experiences possible from the educational perspective. And I would say that it definitely did that. And I remember this. It was I forget the professor's name, but he said this one day. He says, what's my job? My job is to break your beliefs so you can learn how to build it for yourself. And I think that spoke volumes to me, because a lot of people, they live life believing what they've always been told. And if someone never challenges you, your perspective, you'll think you're always right, or that's the only way. And I feel like when it came to like a philosophical way of looking at life, Valley Forge allowed me to see the world where I can now question things. Before, I'm going to be honest with you, me and Daniel, my roommate, we would debate every day. And if you thought Samsung and Banks were total opposites, times that by 10, because you got the hip hop kid coming in and you got the European kid coming in. Two different worlds colliding, and couldn't be any more different, brother. And we collided. But the friendship and the brotherhood that I have with that guy, I love him as a brother. And I'm hope to see him soon. And hopefully he does come on. I would love for him to tell his story. But what took place in that environment on that floor between me and Daniel in the school, was, I would say it was revolutionary for me, because once again, I believe that community gave me the license to question everything that I've been told, to think critically. And before that, to be honest with you, man, I didn't think critically. I just kind of lived a life where you accept what you've been told. And you don't question, because I mean, maybe certain like families dynamics are like that, right? Your dad says, do that, or your mom says, do that. Why? Because I said so. There's no questioning, right? You can't like have okay, hold on, let me question that. No, it's you do it and that's it. So those dynamics of giving someone the license to question it was something very powerful for me, and I really credit that to the community. Daniel, as my roommate, he was very, very much of a critical thinker, and allowed me to really open up an avenue of thinking that I just didn't have before Valley Forge.
That's good. I think it's good that you recognize that and you see that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. A lot of people have questions for you. I wanted to just start off with, because I didn't see it in any of the questions. What was your first impression? Because we didn't know the freshman Carlos. We knew I knew sophomore and up. So the freshman Carlos, obviously you're coming in with a different dynamic. You know what I mean? Before you changed everything up, right? What was your first impression of 24 down when you first came in? And then, I want to know also, what was your vision for what 24 down could become? Because we know that it wasn't the healthiest place. Before I came, maybe even when you came or before you came, like names that it was called and things like that. So, what was the culture back then and what did you want it to become? First impression first.
Yeah. First impression when I walked on that floor, it was just ghost town, man. To be honest with you, it really didn't have, I want to say, anything that someone could be attached to. And I remember when things would come up, whether it was an altercation or something among other people, there was no one there to really take care of what needed to be taken care of. And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, well, this is interesting. But me and Daniel really just stuck to ourselves. And we really focused on what we needed to focus on. But that floor really was, in all sense of the word, nothing really happening. Okay. It was a mixture of classmates, but it really didn't have the camaraderie that 24 down in the years after that. So when I began to see that dynamic where there was nothing happening, and I go back to what I said. It is difficult to impact the community. It is difficult to impact your kids when you're not around. So I think that's a huge part of the problem that happened with Valley Forge. And I said to myself, well, if I apply for this, I'm going to be the person that I'm always here, because I felt like that's the only way to generate something, consistency. So when I applied and got the position as RA, it was crunch time now. Now it's really a matter of putting your words into action. And I felt like right that first year, before anyone came on the floor, I really did pray, and I said, I want this floor to be a family. And I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I just knew that there's something to be said about just being present, that you really can't replace that with anything else. And the one trip when we took everyone to the beach, I feel like was really the jumping board for what would take place afterwards. And I think from there was an evolution, there was connections, there was relations being built off campus. And from there on in, I think it was really just fireworks among people connecting. And it wasn't, no floor is perfect, but I think that was really a part of the beginning. And I felt like during that course of the time that I was there, I think it's hard to understand what you're going to encounter. But I was there, and I felt like my job was to be committed to that floor. So I wanted to make sure that, I kept things as smooth as I could be. And my vision was to make sure that this floor, if anything else, is a family. And that was my stress at those meetings. We're a family. Let's respect each other, and let's really build upon this. And that's one thing that always stuck in my mind, because I feel like at the end of the day, when somebody comes home, he wants to be at peace. He wants to feel loved for. He wants to be among good people. And I felt like if that can be a culture that can exist, then that's what we're going to shoot for. And that was my vision, and that's what I was hope would happen. And I guess to be honest with you, it was an answer to prayer from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I didn't remember at first, because Josh is always the one now that's saying that 24 down is a family and 24 down is a brotherhood and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I heard that you're coming back on, that you were going to be on, episode 24 and stuff, I was like, no. When I was hearing you talk, I was like, Carlos was the first one to say that we are a family, even before we ever were a family. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh man, he used to say it all the time. He used to say it at almost every floor meeting. And even when we would, do crazy stuff and everything, I'd be like, we're a family. You shouldn't be pranking each other. You shouldn't be disrespecting each other, all this stuff. So you're the one that started the whole family vision for 24 down. Do you remember, because, Mark Telesho also, he wanted something more for 24 down as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you guys worked together to pretty much get it done. but I mean, definitely, it definitely was not just you, because obviously we had to reciprocate and be the family that we are, but you
Without a
definitely
doubt.
started it, man. And I thank you for that. But and it's still going today, which is an awesome thing. Maybe today Josh is our RA.
This is true. This is true, brother.
Nobody's fined for anything.
I'll let you find me just 2 times. Just 2 times.
You only get fined if you don't love each other.
I mean, Buddha's absolutely right. I mean, we, and I talked about this a little bit recently, but like Buddha was saying, everybody needed to play their part in order for 24 Down to become what it was. But you can't lose sight of the fact that it would not have even got to that point if it wasn't for you and Mark sitting down and saying, this is what we want the floor to happen. And we're going to do whatever we can do to put that culture within this building. So yeah, I completely agree with Buddha. Like, I do everything I can to always reference this as a family, because it is. But it was, I think, you pounding that into our heads. This is in it was your vision, and so I the same way. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I think the dynamics that we saw in 24 Down, you had every type of person on that floor, and I feel like it reflects our society around us, right? A diverse community, and it's amazing the type of friendships that develop in that diversity and the evolution of those relationships and those friendships. And I look back on those things and I'm just amazed, because not every floor was like that. Not every floor was that diverse, for whatever reason. But my, I think my biggest thing that I can see is that, the people that were on that floor, really connected in such a way where obviously that chemistry just became a wildfire. And because of the personalities and because of the people, it became something bigger than the floor itself, that the rest of the campus would find out about later on as it evolved. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I give you guys a lot of credit, because I remember getting a knock on my door from another RA saying, how do you guys do it? I'm not even lying. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, it's the people. It's the people that really make this floor for what it is. And I remember that RA coming to me, man, and we sat down and had a meeting about what he can do. But ultimately, it's the people and it's the consistency of being with each other, being present, and with that being in place, the building blocks are there for people to build something bigger. And I never told you guys that, but that's a true story, man. People would ask me, how is this floor the way it is? And I give you guys all the credit.
Yeah, man, because it wasn't, obviously we know this, it wasn't just one thing, it was many things. But it had to start with, it almost had to start with a vision, you know what I mean? And a lot of times, actually all the time, someone gets the vision, and I see this in my church as well. You get the vision, but it looks like it can never be done. It looks like it can't be done. It looks like it's impossible. But what happens is you have to speak it, you have to trust it that it could happen, and then it starts to unravel and starts to happen. And so I've seen it in my church. I felt stupid preaching about the vision God gave me, preaching about the mission he gave me and the things that he gave me, because I did not see it in front of my eyes. We were still in thousands of dollars worth of debt and everything. I did not see it. And so, for our floor, yeah, I mean, and also you set the example. It was the example of you. I probably were the first ever person I know of that spent all 4 years in 24 Down. and you were the example. I followed that, and so many others followed that as well, and we just wanted to keep it going.
No, man, you guys, I'm proud of you guys, man. You guys are definitely taking this. And like I said in the previous podcast, I feel like 24 Down has gone beyond the number, goes beyond the building, and it's taken a life on its own. And my hope for this podcast and Josh, under your leadership, it really becomes a brand. And we can look back years later like this guy's a millionaire. I'll start at 24 Down.
If I become a millionaire, I'll pay off everybody's student loans.
Oh, dude, greatly appreciate it.
We'll do that, and then we'll buy
The
24
building.
Down, and Carlos will rent it out to us and other people, and we'll make money off of that. Okay.
There we go, dude.
Not only that, I'm telling you right now, the stuff that we are talking about on this podcast is gold. It's Hollywood gold.
Yeah,
There is a show that a producer has to just get their hands on this, and
Yeah.
then the series upon series, the characters that we have
Oh my
are
gosh.
amazing. This
Yeah.
can live on forever. 10 seasons, bro.
Without a doubt, dude. Without a doubt.
Well, if nothing else, like I think what's really, really cool to me is, you talk about how and we'll get into some questions here in a second. This is the last thing I want to say.
This is all. I love this right now. I just want to let you know.
Is you talk about the floor and how close we were and what it became, and how in a way like we were the envy of other people,
Mhm.
all those things. What sticks out to me, I think, more than anything that I can't get over is, for me, it's been 13 years, 15, I don't know. It's been quite a few for you guys, 13, 15 years, whatever. Like
Mhm.
all these years later. And yes, there was some downtime in those years, but 24 Down is just as close today as it was back in in the prime.
Mhm.
And what other not just Valley Forge, what other college floor can say that?
Mhm.
There you look at like fraternities and sororities and things like that, and I think you see a little bit of an example of that. But even that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can match. I'm not trying to sound cocky and anything like that, but I don't know if you can match the bond that we all had and still
Mhm.
have and value to this day. Buddha talks about it all the time. Like, to this day, he's messaging people all throughout the week that, like, and it's just, if nothing else, if we don't become some multi-million-dollar brand or anything like that, like, at the end of the day, I'm so happy that, like, this is providing proof that, like, this is something special.
Mhm.
I don't need anybody else to know that to validate it for myself, but it's nice to, like, just see it. So
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is that goes back to what you're saying. You are, Josh. I'm proud of you because what you're doing is taking this idea that, if I remember your podcast, you were talking about it for quite a while, and you took this motion of just eventually you'll get to it, eventually I'll see what happens, and now it goes from eventually to every day, and that takes a lot of courage, a lot of persistence, a lot of not giving up when you just want to just let it go, because I'm sure this is a lot of work, brother. I'm sure that this takes a lot of behind the scenes to kind of put together and make sure that you have something going on. But that's I tip my hat to you, my friend, because you're definitely relighting the torch and passing this idea of brotherhood now on on a podcast platform. And my hope is that this becomes a place where you and your leadership inspire other people in ways that you could never imagine. And what you've already done is inspired people to reconnect. And that's something that I would definitely wear that mantle proudly, brother, because it took you to go from eventually to I'm making this happen. And a lot of people, they stay on eventually. Okay. And how many people, and not to start going down a rabbit hole, but how many people had a vision of Valley Forge and just always stayed at eventually? And we all know that we all have visions of something at Valley Forge. And we all did not end up where we said we thought would be, but many people just always stayed at eventually. And what the biggest part of all this, my friend, is that what you've done, I think, is bigger than what you really could ever imagine, and the impact you're already having among the community of this brotherhood. It's definitely something to be proud of, brother, and wear as a badge of honor, because you have shirts now, brother. Pretty soon I'm waiting for sneakers. I mean, you got the tattoo going on, man. I mean, it's definitely, like I said, something that can truly be a business that started from a vision, and now it's a brand. And that's my prayer for you, brother. My hope for you is that it becomes something bigger, and that you maybe your kids become CEOs of this company in the future. Who knows?
Well, I coming from you, I really appreciate that, and I want the record to be shown that on episode 25 of the 24 Down podcast, Carlos said that he was proud of me. Like that. I mean, whoever thought that day would come?
I'm just waiting for this is all, coming to the culmination of us getting all together. And the cool thing about this is this, because, Hat is very close to a certain group of 24 Down, as we all are.
Mhm.
But he makes sure that he wants people from the past. He wants people from even the present day, like even if there was a 24 Downer from like 10 years ago or whatever it was, he wants everyone that's involved in it. And I love that. I love that nature that he has. But yeah, it's coming to the culmination of getting together after all this COVID stuff. Maybe
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
have a president. You never know. As we're doing this, we don't have a president for
yeah.
January yet. And then, then we can all ball tap each other. And then Carlos can give a sermon on homosexuality, and it'll just be amazing. We'll all get saved again.
Yeah,
And
there
no-
you go. There you go.
No paintballs are allowed on site.
That's right. That's right, man.
All right. Well, so I know Buddha's got some more questions here he wants to get into. I don't want to make this all about
Not even some more. We have questions, and
Yes,
we're just having a good time. Okay,
Yes.
so this is
Thanksgiving.
awesome. So yeah, we're gonna get into the questions now.
Mhm.
Thanks, Hat. So our first set of questions comes from Tim Sarajan, if you remember him.
Oh,
He
yeah.
spent all 5 years on 24 Down, so he beat all of us.
Wow.
And he was there for 5 years. He loved it so much. He lived right up the street as well. So do you remember me slamming the door in your face while I was doing a Sam song impression in my room with Buddha and Justin Banks? Whether you do or not, I'm sorry. So do you remember that? We were recording something and you knocked on the door. It was after quiet hours, and he just slammed the door in your face, and we actually got that on video.
You have that on video.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember, man.
All right.
Honestly, I got to see it. I got to see it. Dude,
That's cool.
I can't imagine what I was thinking at that point. I was like, I'm going to break this door down. That's what's going to happen.
Exactly. And then his second question is, can you still break dance? And you kind of alluded that you were teaching breakdancing for a while. Can you
Yeah.
still do it today?
Very little, man. My body's shot at this point, man. I'm like an old man. Dude, I can maybe do a freeze of some sort, but those days are long gone.
Yeah. I remember you and him would do a little something here and there because
Yeah.
he was into it too. He has 2 more questions. Here's the next one. Who and when did you get the most upset at as RA in 24 Down?
To be honest with you, I don't remember his name. Korean kid, tattoos.
Do Young? Is
Yeah.
it Young? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. Like I don't know what he did, dude, but he got me. He definitely. He got me so angry. I was about to flip out. He's the one kid that I probably would have been thrown out of school for. Yeah, I mean, I hope he's doing well. I wish him the best.
Imagine if he like just did a turnaround and he's like preaching all around the world for Jesus because he was always the guy that was like, I'm from the streets all the time. Was he
Yeah.
from LA, the streets, a gang or something like that? It was crazy.
He, if I remember correctly, and this is why I remember him so vividly, because I just did not, you know, I didn't like him at the time. I mean, I don't even know why. Like, I know there was things that he did, dude, that it just really got to me. And I'll tell you this, one of the last things that happened with that kid, and I wish him well and I hope he's okay. And I don't know how I found out about this. I don't know if it was Talash who came to me or I got a call from someone, but the cops were looking for him. And to my understanding, he was cashing fake checks at the bank, and he was gone. He disappeared. From that day on, I never saw him again. But I'll tell you one thing: he definitely was the one that, yeah, like I said, I wish him the best. But if we would have gone, if things would have got hostile, man, I would have gotten hostile with him because I don't know what he did, man, but he would get me very angry. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wish him the best.
yeah, I remember. I remember this vividly because he was just such a scary individual to me, at least. Matt probably got along with him because Matthias, he's just he loves everyone.
Yeah.
But I remember it was in the gym. We were I don't know what we were doing per se, but he had like a cut off shirt, and I commented on one of his tattoos. And I was kind of making a joke about it, but just a funny joke. I wasn't really trying to be malicious or anything.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he just snapped and was like, "You making fun of my tattoo? You know what this means?" And he told me what it means and stuff. He was like, "I'll beat you up right now. I'll punch you in the face." And back then, snuff was a word, and he was gonna snuff me in the face and whatnot. But yo, bro, I'm just playing, man. Everything's good. That really, I was like, I'm not gonna be hanging out with this kid. So yeah, he was definitely a scary individual.
Yeah, I think he had some problems, man, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Josh? Do you remember him at all? He beat you up?
So no, I remember him very little because I think I don't know if he was like my first year. I don't know if he was there the full year or just one semester. I don't
Probably
remember.
a semester. Yeah.
I think it was just a semester. He wasn't there very long.
Yeah, but I do remember him. The oddly enough, like I didn't really know him that well, but I got along great with him from what I do remember. And maybe that's telling in its own way. I don't know.
Here's a follow-up question for you after the young question. I would say, did you ever think like, when are these guys gonna stop annoying me so much? Like me, Josh, Tim, just doing the pranks and making so much noise? Because pretty much it was between me, Josh, Tim, Bowdwin here and there. He didn't really live there.
The Brazilian twins.
Sometimes, Brazilian. I mean, I guess it was a lot of people, but
He said it was the whole floor, really.
Right? It was like 10 people. But like, did you ever like think to yourself, when are they just gonna stop and grow up? When are they just gonna, be mature? Did it ever make you think about like wanting to quit being RA?
No, not at all, brother. I would do it all over again. Actually, I think the funny part is that like I would be laughing in my room because I'm just thinking to myself, these guys are just so silly. It's unbelievable that you just gotta laugh at it. And and I feel like every year it just upped the ante. Like every year it got more silly. Not that it got less silly, it got more silly. And I just laughed a lot of things in my head. Like I know that I could not show you that I thought some of these things were like humorous, because I knew that, forget about it, I would give you guys the license to, like, I don't know, build a brick house in front of my door with birds coming out. I don't know what it would evolve to, but there was many days, dude, I'm just laughing like these guys are just silly characters. But nah, man, I love 24 Down, man. It was definitely one of the best times that I can think about.
I'm glad that you found some of those things humorous. I'm happy about that because so many times in my life I've just made people's lives like a complete hell, and I feel bad for it. Like
Mhm.
my teachers when I was a kid, a couple of them, and I would just say sorry. So, I already said sorry to you on the last episode. So,
No.
um, so here's his last question.
Mhm.
What was your most proud moment while RA on 24 Down?
Most proud moment, man. I think the most proud moment is, hmm, wow. When I wouldn't say it was a moment, but it was when I did really just see that what it was started, what was happening, what it was starting to become, and for me, that was my proudest moment when I started to see that people were getting along, that this community was evolving. And I could say this, when the sports became a part of the culture of the floor, and you all were participating in different tournaments, and I believe it was the basketball tournament. I mean, when you guys won that, I feel like my children hit a home run at the ninth inning at the last up to bat with two outs, and it was just a home run, man. It was just, for me, when I saw those moments, it really was something special for me, because I felt like this family is not just living together; they're really working together, and just having fun. And I'm glad, at least in those moments, there was more than just one moment in those sports tournaments.
Yeah, that was really big. Because we had my first year there. That's when it kind of the brotherhood kind of started, but it
Hmm.
was just really in house,
Hmm.
on the floor. And then by my second year, that's when we got the free agents. I guess we got Nate and Justin Banks and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just came together, and it was like there's not only greatness on this floor, we're just spreading the greatness, and we're just showing everyone
Hmm.
how great we really are, without being prideful, but still I
Hmm.
think there's a healthy pride here, right?
Sure, sure.
And that was just amazing. And oh man, it felt really good to have just awesome sports teams, and not just to be known just as a brotherhood on the floor, but like just to be known on campus, and that we
Hmm.
started to be known on campus by that second year.
Without a doubt, man. Without a doubt, it was special, man. I remember, like I said, I remember more than just not RAs, man. But other people asked me about the floor, and it's the culture. What was built there by the personalities and the people. It's something that really could not be reduplicated at the extent that it was, at that moment. And I'm glad that it's evolving even today. It's definitely something special. But yeah, those moments when you guys were winning those tournaments, I was really proud of you guys.
All right, so these next set of questions here come from Wolfie,
Yeah, oh yeah, my
Carl
brother.
Wolf. Um, so his first question is, and this is a question that he started
Hmm.
asking everybody. If you could have any building at Valley Forge besides 24 named after you, what would you choose?
Um, let's see. No matter how many times I heard this question, I still don't, I just don't know. It
It's a
is
tough
because I'm just
question.
thinking like what. But well, I'll tell you this. It would definitely be. I want to say it would be the library, because I feel like I spent so much time there. um, it was. I think it was a unique architecture, but it would definitely be the library.
One of the things that I really love about this question is everybody's got a different answer and a different reason for their answer. And I think it's really unique. It kind of like almost speaks to like the question on the surface is
Yeah,
just a question, but there's like so many layers underneath that. Like it really gives why I picked this floor
yeah,
because of this, and like so it takes on a life of
absolutely.
its own. I I uh I love that question that he asked. So His next one is, what's one luxury upgrade you would have liked to see to have in 24
That's a
down?
good question. That's a good question. It's interesting because I forget who it was. Maybe it was you, Just, but you said like because we had very little, the environment forced us to kind of work with what we had. So it's, to make any adjustments to the building itself would be maybe a negative for the community, right? Maybe I don't know. I would say this, like at that time, I think I I would say like free smoothies, man, or like free like if that floor just had this like just like free smoothies, like where you just go and get a smoothie, I think that would have been cool.
Yeah. I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have changed the dynamic
No,
either. Like, if anything, it might have just like added to it, because they were like, if you look at it, what was the was it Petrucci's? Was that the ice cream place that was
yes,
like down the road?
yes.
I mean, there were times where we just let's all as a floor go down to Petrucci's. So yeah,
Mhm.
if we had something like that just in our hall, like,
That would have been crazy.
yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, off the top of my head, I want to be like, it would have been really nice to have some air conditioner in there, especially like those first few weeks of class
Yeah,
and like last few weeks of like the spring semester would have been really nice. But again, it almost forced you to get out of your room because it was too hot to stay in there
exactly.
and go do stuff with everybody on the floor.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was that was Wolfie's second question. I think go ahead, Buddha.
That's a good question actually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would either say for me a lounge or I would have to say a lounge, man, because we didn't really have a lounge.
But where would you
Now
We had
put it?
the
I
well,
know, I don't know.
so
You know, they actually made your room a lounge,
I heard that in one of the podcasts, which
and they
kind of
made it
makes
all.
sense.
They made it like as far as I can go. That's why. That's another reason I think that we were close because there was only about maybe about 35 people instead
Yeah.
of like 60 people,
Yeah.
and so we were closer as a family.
Hmm.
Yeah.
well, when they opened up the at least when I was like, this was near the end of when I was there, when they opened up the wall to extend 24 down to like go past the RD and everything like that, um it was like there was another lounge right on the other side of what was the wall. So there was another lounge with another kitchen, and then there might have been some rooms past that. I really can't remember. Um, but yeah, they turned, obviously, your room, Carlos. They turned that into a lounge. We
Hmm.
kind of had the other end of the hall closest to like the soccer fields. We had that little
Hmm.
hallway that was a lounge,
Lounge. Yeah. Yeah.
and we did spend a lot of time. I mean, there was a couch in there. That's why it was considered a lounge, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent a lot of time in there too, but a lounge would have been cool. But I think the whole 24 down as a floor was our lounge,
Pretty much.
realistically,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Francis has a couple questions. His first one is, what was the best part about being the RA of 24 down?
Yeah, man. I think the best part was just to um, see the evolution, man. I go back to it because it's sometimes you can start something, and never see the fruits of it, and I think the best part was just to see that change, see that evolution, and see that people really stay together, work together, and be a part of different parts of that community. Because even within 24, there was pockets of people, right, that really stuck together. But when it came to like certain things, it was more of a camaraderie, and to see that evolution was something special. And I think that's something that, like, when you think of like being a pastor, you would hope that your church or your business or whatever you're starting, it becomes something special. And I feel like to see that happen was probably the best part of being an RA. um yeah, because I mean, ultimately it wasn't for the money, because you do get you get you do get a stipend. I ain't gonna lie, you do get a stipend.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this, man. Maybe one day, for maybe just even if it's just one Sunday, we can have like the 24 down church, right? And maybe I could be the pastor. We'll have the counseling pastor, Carlos, and then we'll have the
There we go.
connections pastor, which is hat maker,
There we go.
making the connections. We'll have the fiery evangelist, Rick Feltenberger, and stuff like that. The small group leader, Pete Sensenig,
There we
things
go.
like that.
Dude, we would kill it. We would kill
Yeah,
it.
right. Matt
Absolutely.
Baldwin, youth pastor. But that'll be cool, man. Yeah, talking about RA, man. I was your ARA, your first year as RA, and I absolutely hated it. Not because of you,
Mhm.
but because I felt like I was a spy. I felt like, not that you made me like that. No one made me like that, but I just felt like I was spying on my friends, and I was
Mhm.
supposed to say something if something went wrong. So that year was very weird for me.
Mm.
It was weird for me, number one, because I felt like I was a spy.
Yeah.
Number two, I had my own room, which I thought I would really like. At times I did, but I actually liked having a roommate more.
Mhm.
I would actually feel really bad that like no one was in my room. And
Mhm.
I was like, why isn't anyone hanging out with me? And I was always having a battle with inside me. Like,
Mhm.
what do I tell Carlos about? What don't I? Like,
Mhm.
I was doing most of the noise also at night, and I was doing a lot of crazy stuff, having lotion fights. We would take the
Oh,
lotion and just like, and so I mean, I just, it was a very rough year for me,
mm.
just in my mind. It was very weird.
I'll tell you behind the scenes on that one. um, it was a lesson that I learned in respects to just real life. I think it was between you and Daniel. And I think Talasha told me that we're gonna be we decided to go with you, but I never told Daniel. And Daniel at that time I think felt very hurt when he confronted me about it. And I learned that in life, it's the people you most care about, really should break the barriers of certain rules. And I understood that you're not supposed to tell people what the next ARA who that would be, but that was a lesson learned for me that there are certain times in life where those relationships are more important than sticking to the um, expectations of you know the institution of a university. I never did it again. Say that much. From there on in, it really taught me that you have to trust the leadership, but also be honest with um, the people you most care about. And and I think even though it was stressful for you, I think it was definitely um, a great part of transition because it allowed you to continue the relationship you had um, and really continue that just culture because I could not be that, right? I couldn't be that guy. I needed to be the other guy. And that other guy that really had to set some form of tone of what's the line. And I feel like, um, hopefully, that really, though it was stressful, I think it was a good decision because I think it helped you kind of probably see things that you didn't see before because that's difficult, man. When you're in that position, I think it's very difficult to have that balance. And when Andrew Kindler became the RA, I said that's going to be a tough, balance as well, because he loves to be having fun, and I think when you're trying to have fun, and that's a beautiful thing to happen, but then now when you have to be the guy who now also applies the rules, wow, that becomes a tough thing to juggle.
Yeah, because I felt like I was policing my friends, and it was very policing my peers, and that was really
Hmm.
weird for me. And I think I tried to do it like the first couple weeks, but then after that, it wasn't. I never came up against someone doing something blatantly against the rules that was so horrible. I didn't keep any secrets or anything like that. What I would really do is be like, "Yo, Carlos is coming. Yo, get out of here! Like, stop making noise or something like that. You know, get inside. It's quiet hours, whatever it was." So I would kind of like I would be the lookout so that they wouldn't get in trouble. So I guess I
Yeah.
was kind of doing my job,
Yeah.
but that showed me that I didn't, because I thought I may want to be the RA of the floor one year, you know,
Yeah.
once you're gone. That showed me that, nope, I don't want to be the RA. I hardly like the ARA. I don't want to be the RA. However, you're right in that I kind of was a leader on the floor. And so now I had the position title, but even without the position title, I was still a leader on the floor because I remember, you know, a year later, I think we had Donovan. Did you work with Donovan?
Yeah.
And did he last just like a semester, or was he there the whole year? Because I don't remember him being there the
He
whole
was
year.
he was the ARA the whole so that was my first year, and he was the ARA that whole year.
And he
So
never
Carlos's last year was
he never acclimated to us. I just remember that he never really acclimated to us.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the big boss man, but you were the
Yeah.
big boss man, you know?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't even know how he came into the picture. I don't remember because he didn't live on the floor.
Because
And
I would have got the position again, I think, because I didn't do a horrible job or anything, but
yeah,
I didn't want it anymore. I wanted
Yeah.
to room with someone. That's what it was.
yeah,
But yeah, and I didn't want the position anymore. Yeah.
I honestly can't remember how that all played out with Donovan, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately when I think when you're that young man, you just learn how to walk, and when you have to really hold people accountable for rules that you may or may not believe in, and either you're okay with, even though they're not bad. I mean, you look back, dancing with a girl is not bad, but you couldn't do that at the Forge. I'm gonna tell you that right now. uh, uh, but these are things that it really, I want to say, it taught me that there are a lot of things that I need to learn, in those positions. And I think that's what leadership does. It forces you to look yourself in the mirror and say, you suck at this. And either you have one of two decisions. Either you're going to give that part to someone else, or you're going to get better at that.
Yeah, and that's the reason why, you know, I bring this up all the time. I never wanted to be a senior pastor because I never wanted to be the guy on the top. I didn't want to be the RA. You know what I mean? It was just so funny, but you know, God had different plans for me. But yeah, man, that's good stuff. And yeah, so Daniel was your roommate for your first year, your second year, then you were RA your last 2 years. Where did Daniel go after he didn't get that RA position?
He lived in the apartment with the seniors.
Oh,
It
okay.
was Daniel, Brigham Lee, Jordan, and guy, I forget the other kid's name, but he was on like one of the bands, Numa. I forget the other name of it.
Bertram. I think there was a Bertram in there.
there was
Maybe.
Josh. I
Yes,
remember a Josh
Bertram.
Bertram.
Maybe it's maybe. Oh yes, that's right. You are right, Josh Bertram.
And they
hey,
never acclimated with us ever.
no, they had their own
also.
culture. They had their own culture in that apartment. Yeah, I mean that's, you got to understand. They I forget where they came from, but I want to say they either came from different buildings and they knew each other because they're part of the traveling teams, and they saw that opening. And you know that the senior members are the ones that are going to have first choice in getting these apartments, right? So that's how that really happened. And yeah, they reminded me of like friends, older people living together, right? It was just a different culture, and that was not that I would never be able to mix together, but just they were on a different level in life.
Wasn't there a guy there within that whole crew that he had a weird nickname? I want to say it was Christmas. Wasn't there like a
There is. I don't remember though,
Well,
but
I
you're
don't,
right.
not in that group though, but
Are you sure?
there
I
is a
thought him
guy
and-
named Christmas, and I know
Yes.
him.
but I think him and Bertram were.
Maybe they were
I thought they
friends.
were.
I don't know.
I thought they lived it. I could be wrong.
There
But-
is
but-
someone. You're right. There is
But
someone named Christmas.
Chris
or some-
Moranti, he's actually a big time pastor in New Jersey, like 2,000 person church and whatnot. He actually started what we do at our church, which is Boxes of Hope, which is, delivering food to people that really need it during the pandemic. And so awesome guy, man. Awesome guy. But yeah, his name is Christmas, and we beat his team so many times in football. It was great.
Well, now you have to share this podcast, or at least that little portion. Share that with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I for some reason I always, when I think of Bertram, I think of Christmas, and I think maybe now that I'm thinking of it, maybe it's because when I started working with the elementary schools at the YMCA, they both were working there as well. So maybe that's the connection that I put them together. I don't know. Anyway, Carlos, we got some more questions here. Here for you. This
Go for it.
next set of questions here comes from Colleen.
Mhm.
And her first one is, if you could go back to 24 down.
I can't hear.
one
I
day-
can't hear the question.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. If you could go back to the, we have an ongoing joke with how loud Colleen is.
Oh,
so,
that's hilarious.
if you could go back to 24 down for one day, what is one thing you would want to do?
If I can go back, I think somebody had mentioned this, and I thought this was great. But I think I would do it like in the woods, where we would just all go and have like a potluck, sit in overnight, and kind of have like a just a hangout, man, and just eat, talk, and just chat it up, and just do a paintball, but just now with me. And I'll be horrible at it, but I've done it once and it hurts, but it was fun.
I'm sure you'd be fine at it. To be honest, like I think prior to Valley Forge, I'd done paintball maybe once in my entire life.
Mhm.
And then like did it once or twice, 3 times, however many times when we go to do it with Francis and Jean at their place. I was never good either. So like I'm sure you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like I think there was a group of maybe 5 or 6 people that were like actually good at
Yeah.
it, and then the rest of us were just like, yeah, this is something we're gonna
Yeah,
do.
we're just gonna shoot each other.
Sherwin Williams can sponsor the paintballs.
Oh, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
All right, so Colleen's second question here. This is something that she asks everybody. She wants to know when you're getting the 24 down tattoo.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before. Yes, I'll be honest with you. I've never been a big on tattoos. I think it's a beautiful art, but I don't think I'll be getting a 24 tattoo.
I think that's fair. Like
Yeah,
my biggest thing is, and I do love that she asks this question to everybody. But with tattoos, I mean, tattoos are not
Yeah.
for everybody. I like personally, like I love tattoos, and like you said, like you appreciate the art aspect of it, but like it's not necessarily like like for you, you're not like, oh, I want to like be covered in tattoos. Like realistically, you're never going to get a 24 down tattoo, and that's
Yeah.
completely fine to me.
Yeah. Well, he's got the shirt, man. So that's good. Our next set of questions comes from Junior, and I just want to just let you know he actually asked some deep questions. The last one he has very deep. So here's the first one. What is your biggest fear?
my biggest fear. Oh my gosh. I think my biggest fear was always like failing. Well, the concept of failing, I never liked the idea of failing. And I think the biggest fear is like failing your family. And so like that, and this is why like, for me, the course of why I'm taking the course that I'm taking, I never want to be put in a position where I failed my family. When you have kids and a wife, the whole nine, even going through like divorce, I feel like I failed. When that happened, like even though that was my decision, I feel like I failed. And I needed to get better on decision making, and ultimately, I'm a work in progress, and that would say, excuse me, that's my biggest fear, is failure and failing your family. I feel like as you get older, At least, like, I would say my vision is like, to leave behind something that's, for the future of, if it's not my kids, my sister's kids. And that's something I feel like is important to me. But failing the family, I think it's something that's probably the biggest fear.
Yeah, and I don't want to stay too long on the um topic of your divorce, but how long ago was it? I'm asking this because Junior also he went through a divorce as well. I don't know if you heard his episode.
Yeah, I
So
did. I
it's
did.
kind of crazy how, he's asking this question and you're answering it with this.
Yeah. It was, dude, I would have to get the paperwork, but it was a long time ago. It was, I wouldn't say it was a few years after Valley Forge. Um, and it's something that it really showed me that we can make decisions really based, like back to the word prematurely, whether it's because you want to get out of the house or whether you just want to start that new chapter of your life without really understanding the dynamics that really surround that. Like, you can think you have chemistry with someone, and you very well could be, but that could just be you're attracted to that person, right? But once you start living with the person, the whole game changes. It's like, you think you could play poker until you're at the table playing poker. And you lose all your money because you realized there's techniques. There's a lot more to the game than just understanding the cards. And I feel like relationships are like that. You have to. What I realized is that you have to understand how you were affected by trauma, how they were affected by trauma, and now how those dynamics affect your life, right? Your relationships, and hopefully, over time or before you even got into a relationship, you've gotten to a better place of healing. Um, and when you come together, these are two healthier people come together. But a lot of times, I would say for me, I made premature decisions, and I've learned that you got to know what you want. You got to know what you want, because just because you're attracted to someone, you can be attracted to a lot of people. I mean, I like all people. I'm from New York, man. I like black, white, orange. It doesn't have, I never care. For me, race wasn't the issue. But that, the personality is huge. It is huge. And when you don't understand who that person is, what they bring to the table, and a lot of people, they don't realize it could be the small stuff, man. It really could be the small stuff. Some things, it could be, they say like the second cause of divorce is finances. I'm big on finances, dude. Like, for me, finance is very important. And if someone's trying to save money, the other one's just spending it. And it can be something like just spending on every day on lunch or breakfast, but your bank account's slowly being trimmed down, and you're trying to buy a house or you're trying to buy a car. That causes a lot of friction. So I don't know how I got to that, but yeah, it was a while ago.
Nah, that's cool. Yeah, man, I hear you. His second question, like I said, he gets deep.
Yeah.
He says, Carlos, the name Carlos means free man. Tell us, do you feel free?
I couldn't be freer, brother. That's hilarious.
Awesome, bro. We'll keep it there, man, because you've been talking about it, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you set up this path that you have, and then,
Mhm.
by the time you're 60, 65, you'll find a young 30-year-old and that just graduated from Valley Forge, and you have that connection, right?
There we go.
So,
There we go,
yeah.
brother.
Yeah, man. So like I said, this third one is his final question.
Yeah.
This is really deep. If you don't feel like answering this, we can definitely skip over it or edit it out. Prior to
This is not gonna be deep going.
Nah, it is. I
You
get
had-
really,
you
I
had
get
set it
really
up.
nervous. I get really nervous,
Yeah,
and I
sure,
laugh when
buddy.
I get nervous. Prior to
Hey.
VFCC or post VFCC, have you ever had any plumbing issues, horror stories? Asking for a friend. Any plumbing issues?
What the hell? What is he asking?
Fill us in.
So, all right. So, I don't know. I don't know if you recall this, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but maybe we haven't talked about it on the podcast
Oh, hold
yet.
on. You talking about like noises in a room?
Yes. So,
Okay.
when Junior, when Junior and I lived together,
Yeah.
I was on the bottom bunk and Junior was on the top bunk. We were in that end room, like closer to the mail room, right, or to the right on the other side of the RD apartment, basically. And so I don't know what's made him do this, but one night he literally just like reached up and started pounding on the ceiling.
He was just like, watch this, I think. Because I came in, I don't think I was there for the initial one. Maybe I was, I don't know. But he bam, 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 bam. He was like, watch this. And then he would just go to sleep.
Yeah, and he was just like pound on the ceiling, and then like it was just like, I don't know, we just did it. It was funny. He thought it was funny. And eventually, like, you heard it, and so you came in, you were like, hey, did you guys hear that? We're like, yeah, man, we've been hearing that for like a few days. We don't know what that is. And so what it led to was eventually Junior went with the story that like he's like, I think there's like some plumbing issues in it must be the pipes above or whatever. And so he had told you this, and the next day we go to chapel and we come back from chapel and there's maintenance tearing apart our ceiling because you took him for his word. You didn't think, okay, this guy's trying to pull one over on me, and you contacted maintenance and said there's some plumbing issues in their roof or whatever.
Probably because you cared about them.
Yeah, for sure.
You care about them.
Hello.
So Junior and I get back from chapel and we see maintenance tearing up our ceiling and we're like, oh no.
Oh my God.
But the funniest part was this. Tell me if you remember this, Carlos, because we definitely do. We thought it was plumbing issues. That's what we said. Obviously it wasn't. We said, oh, maybe it's the plumbing or whatever. You said, no. It's the roof. That's the roof right there. And in our mind, we wanted to bust out laughing because we knew 24 up was above us. It wasn't the roof. It was like the floor. It was like maybe I think maybe even you even went up to the room that was above us or something.
I could see myself doing that. Yeah. Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Do you remember that at all?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't. But I can see myself going up to him like, what the hell are you guys doing up here?
For sure.
Listen.
And literally the whole time it's literally just Junior hitting the ceiling. And we're putting like that's why like we owe you so many apologies, because like we're not only are we like pulling pranks, but we're pulling pranks that then like you're going and talking to other people and getting other people involved that like literally like
nothing to do with it.
And nothing to do with it.
So, and then you would be in the room and then you would turn to us talking and he would be watching you and he would do it again and go right back to sleep. It was the funniest thing, but the worst thing.
Silly. Oh my gosh. You guys are hilarious.
So speaking of Junior, we're going to transition into next set of questions here, and these come from Mikey, his twin brother.
All right, hold on. Let me take out the dog, and then I'll be right back.
All right, yeah. Do you think?
Pee break for everyone. I took a pee when I was eating. You need to pee?
Yeah, I'll go pee real quick. Let me just write down this edit.
It's good, man. It's good. I liked how we just talked for like an hour or two before even the questions.
Right. Yeah.
I liked how that went, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll be right back.
I'm trying to check if we have a president yet. This is just freaking ridiculous, bro.
I don't think we're really gonna. I mean, they might like declare something, but he's gonna take it to court, and
Yeah,
we're not
Trump,
gonna.
Trump went on. Trump did a press conference a couple hours ago and saying a bunch of crap. But
So I will say this personally. Like, I don't care either way. I will say this, because one of the states in question is Michigan,
Mhm.
and I personally know people that were at the site that had issues, and like like, no, I'm not saying like, oh, something definitely happened, but like, I personally know people that were there, and like, there's definitely some really weird things, like, just it doesn't make sense.
So do you live? So take a look at the chat. But so you live in Detroit or like right outside Detroit?
Right outside Detroit.
Okay, all right, yeah. Man, dude. So you're pretty much like a Yonkers, because Yonkers is right outside the city. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
20 minutes away. Not even. It's like 5 minutes away if you count the Bronx.
I could get to, from where I'm at right now, I could get to downtown Detroit in probably 25-30 minutes, but I could get to the Detroit border in 15 to 20 minutes. You know?
Yeah. It's pretty much the same. Yeah. But no, this episode is really good because I can't believe how much crap we put him through, and he doesn't remember most of it, and he's so happy to be part of it, and he's proud of 24 Down. It's just,
Yeah, I think it's a testament to his character that he doesn't remember the negative.
Dude, he's been through so much, so many job changes and everything, man. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's awesome to hear these stories, man. Did you see V for Vendetta? I put V for Valley Forge.
Yeah, I saw that.
V for Vagine. Oh, man. You going into Mikey's now, right?
Yep.
All right. What kind of dog you have?
I have a boxer pit.
Oh,
nice.
I love that.
So Carlos, we got one more or two more sets of questions, and then like just kind of like closing out. Are you still good on time?
Yeah, dude, I got all day, man.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Like, I know you'd scheduled 8 to 10. I wanted to make sure that wasn't like you have to be done around 10.
Nah, dude, we're good.
Okay.
If I just disappear, it's because I didn't bring my charger home, and it's a little low. It's not like emergency level right now. So if we go an hour, it might be gone.
I don't think based on the questions that are left, they're probably half an hour tops, if that. Like, I don't think
it should be longer.
Good. So, all right, well, let's get right back into it then. All right, so these questions are from Mikey. His first question is, how has Valley Forge prepared you and not prepared you for life after?
Well, I think Valley Forge prepared me in the aspect of, when I alluded to before, critical thinking. I want to say it really prepared me just in a sense of understanding this, inner relationship dynamics, working with people, trying to help them. And understand that, relationships with people have huge impact. And I'll give you an example. Me and Daniel, we roomed together for 2 years. He was extremely introverted. I was extremely extroverted. And throughout the years, because of the course of Valley Forge, we had to take personality tests. And from the time freshman year to junior year, I became more introverted by these test results, and he became more extroverted. So just in living with someone, you begin to almost take on their personality to a certain degree. And it was very interesting to me that he did, in that beginning, man, he just didn't really, it wasn't as, he wouldn't be willing to do the things that what I would be willing to do. And I'll give you an example of this. There was a girl that was at like the ice cream location at the cafeteria. He was like, I wonder what, what's her race? I was like, yeah, me too. So I got up and I asked her. I go and sit down. He's like, dude, he's like, what do you like? How? I said, how'd you just do that? And I just went up and asked her. He would never do that in 1,000 years. But the dynamics of people and living with people in close proximity, the influence you have, man, is tremendous. And I really learned that it's very important to, especially when you're in leadership roles or you have a family, is just to be consistent and have some form of a balanced perspective as much as possible, being fair, because life is just different. What was the second question?
That was pretty much his first one.
Oh,
there.
okay.
And I think like he'll, well, it was basically how has it prepared you and how is it
They didn't prepare me. Yeah. I don't think I think Belfer didn't prepare me to understand the consequence of the amount of debt that I was encountering, which I still have today. But the reality is that I wonder how much they really knew, because I don't know if, like, I kind of dove into this years back. Just they're trying to grow. They're trying to be the Liberty University. They're trying to be the Penn States one day. That's their vision. There's only one way you do that. That's increase tuition. I mean, we don't have, actors and actresses donating money to the school, but the reality is that I think it's a bigger issue in the aspect of saying, I think that the university need to change. It's not just a Valley Forge issue. It's an America issue. As you know, I think debt is $1.8 trillion student debt right now. It's a huge issue in our country, and I hope it gets taken care of. But I think financially, I think they could have done a better job in saying, look, this is a reality. Once you get out of here, these are your payments, because you just don't know what you're getting into.
We should have voted for Bernie Sanders. Free college for all.
Oh,
no, I mean, you're absolutely right, and I've said it before. Like I'm going in as a naive college student, like, oh, like the government's going to help me pay for this, and yeah, I'm going to have loans when I get out, but I didn't know the reality of a loan and what that looked like, and there was no education for us while we were there to prepare us for that. So I agree with you, and the other thing, like the first part of that question, of just the interactions and the way that you kind of adapt towards the people that you're surrounded with. I think that answer is so perfect for the person that's asking the question, because for me on a personal level, because when I came, like the Brazilian twins and I came together. We didn't know each other prior, but we came the same day, a few days early. They came for soccer. They were there a few days early for soccer, and I came a few days early because I was out of state and I had nothing else going on. And we just, the three of us, like, I mean, they made me their adopted triplet. I became the Brazilian triplet instead of the Brazilian, and there was so much like you said, like just personality things between the three of us that we all kind of, like, I don't know if Junior would have pounded on that ceiling had he been living with Buddha or like, but there was that troublemaker in Josh that he was surrounded with. So like, yeah, he's good, and things like that. So I think that's a really cool answer, and something that I think 24 Down as a whole, I think we all picked up different traits from each other. And like you said, there was just such a eclectic mix of all nationalities and personalities, but it all molded and gelled together and became what it was.
Without a doubt.
So Mike's next question here. This is the last one. He said, if you could choose, and I think I know the answer to this, but we'll see. He said, if you could choose one person to go back and hang out at Valley Forge with for the day, who would it be and why?
Oh man, You know what? You said Valley Forge, right? There's a professor. He left my last year there. His name was Dr. Sheets. I don't know if you were around for him.
Just
Yeah, New Testament. He was good.
He was
He was kind of a jerk,
ridiculous,
but he
man.
was good.
He was just amazing in the way he thought. And I remember when he handed it, when I found out he was, I think they announced it at like one of the chapels. I went to his office and I asked him, like, why are you leaving? He gave me a straight up answer, man. He goes, man, I got 2 kids that are young, and one day they're going to be going to college, and I need to make more money. Now, at that time, I had to respect that, but I didn't. You don't realize when you're that young what that really meant, But he's looking at the future. He's looking at, 10 years from now, I need to be in a different position economically. But I would love to sit down with him and kind of get his perspective on life and what that looks like as a professor, because at one point I thought I was going to be a professor, to be honest with you. I thought I was going to write a book, be a marriage counselor, the whole nine. None of that happened. But, it goes back to the reality that you just don't know how things pan out. But I'm, that's probably the one person it would be interesting to go back and talk to and ask him, like, kind of like what we're doing here. What's life after Valley Forge?
Yeah, it would be awesome to have a professor or a couple professors from when we were there. I mean, our first professor is tomorrow night, which is cool, adjunct professor. But to have one that when I could see Brubaker saying yes, I could see Gruber saying yes.
Without a doubt.
I could see a couple people saying yes, even Mark McLean or someone like that.
Without a doubt, I could see them saying yes.
I could see Don Meyer saying yes.
So I guess my because I actually talked to, and I won't reveal any names or anything like that, but I talked to 2 Valley Forge employees that were very hesitant about coming on because of they didn't want it to necessarily affect their job and stuff, and I completely get that. So I think that's why, like, now more than ever, I really want to start, like, really portraying that my views, other views, are not the views of everybody.
Yep.
And for sure not the views of any guests we have. Yep. I would love to have some like that. It was like Carlos is number 1 on my bucket list. Professors are like number 2 on, like, or just, employees, whatever, or like number 2 on my bucket list for this podcast. So it'd be cool.
I think it'd be a great perspective.
For sure. And you might not get the same 24 down constant theme throughout it, but you're going to get a Valley Forge perspective that all of us understand. So, so that's that.
Awesome. So our last group of questions is from the person that took over after you as RA, and I think you did a pretty good job. I mean, 24 down didn't crumble, and I hope it never does, and it probably will, but because it's not even being used today, it's very sad. Yeah. We all gotta somehow get there.
Petition.
Yeah, exactly. And really, someone has to like buy it. It would be so awesome if someone did. Dude, I actually stayed there. I stayed in that like for a week with some teenagers from my church, and it was awesome.
There was rumors that Valley Forge is going to have investors invest in like the apartments. Sorry, you hear my cat? She's oh my God, I don't know how she got in here.
You're good.
Yeah. There was rumors that they were going to have investors buy, like, say, the apartments, and then the kids would be like essentially paying the rent towards the landlord who bought that apartment. I don't know if that was just like a fairy tale. I mean, it sounded interesting because as an investor, you're like, oh, that's a guarantee. This is a university. Kids are going to have to live there. I don't have to deal with the maintenance, nothing. I'm just collecting rent. And the school's going to be paying me direct deposit, man. I thought that was it, but I don't think that ever came into fruition. But that was rumors, and that would be interesting. Imagine if everyone put together money to buy one room in 24 down, and
Oh
we just
man.
hang out there once a year.
I would buy a room. I really
That's
would buy a room.
hilarious,
I
dude.
would rent it out and it'd be my summer home, you know?
There we go.
My family can't even stay in one of those rooms.
The guys are gonna really tough it out this year.
Yeah, right. All right. So this is from Andrew, and he says, "Did being an RA help prepare you for?" Oh, well, you kind of went into that. Sorry, I didn't read these before, but his number two was he saying, was I, Andrew, the only student that you had to ask about a body piercing? Was it his nips? What was it?
Yeah, you asked him to take out a body piercing, and so
I
he was
did.
what? Yeah, I think it was his nipples, actually. Yeah, to be honest.
Dude, I don't remember that, man.
You don't. I remember this though. Don't you have pierced ears, Carlos? No.
No.
Remember? Oh my gosh.
If I don't remember that, man. Dude, there's a lot of stuff that, I mean, so many years ago, man, that I'm just, I hear these stories and it's kind of slowly coming back to me, like when I hear them, but that one I don't remember.
But it's so fun. Does he still have his nips pierced? Does his wife like that? Like,
Andrew, you have so many questions to answer for us.
I
I
know.
forgot
for
all
real.
about that because usually a certain type of guy gets nipple piercings.
Hey, man.
I guess he liked it. Here's his last one. Oh, I have a question before we get to this one. I know on campus you didn't have a car. Am I correct? All 4 years you didn't have a car.
Yep.
But you did 3D and you guys carpooled and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you driving now? Do you got a car now?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I got
Okay.
it. No, I'm still walking, actually, man. I'm walking everywhere I go. I skateboard on Tuesdays. I do a unicycle on Thursdays.
All
I
right.
try to mix it up.
That's cool. I'm happy for you. So last question here. Did you have a place like Wawa that was your late night snack run? If so, what was your go-to food there?
At Valley Forge.
Yeah.
Dude, my go-to was like the machines if I really wanted a snack. I was never one to like have a whole meal at night, but maybe if I wanted like something sweet, go to like a snack machine. But I never really ever hit the road to go get something because I couldn't. I was on foot.
Did we have snack machines at Valley Forge?
Upstairs, right? 24 up.
Why do
had
I
it.
not remember
We were
those?
too small to have anything.
Yeah, I want to say that the where the pool table and TV were located, like around there was a snack machine either in the hallway. It was somewhere around in that location.
So I like vaguely remember like like a beverage, like, well, what I call pop. I know those Pennsylvania people call it soda, whatever.
Yeah,
So I remember that, but I don't. Do they had snacks too?
yeah, like chips. You know, the regular mixers like chips and
That's great.
and the candy bars, things of that nature.
I guess maybe part of the reason I don't remember is because I would just always go to Wawa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would you?
So you would just go to the snack machine
Yeah.
then? That was
That
your
was my
go-to?
go-to, man. If I had to get something.
If you would go out, who would you usually ride with? I think maybe one time I brought you to Giant or something. Probably one time.
Maybe,
Yeah.
dude.
Daniel had a car, didn't he, or no?
No,
He
didn't
didn't
even
even
have
have
a
one.
car. I think if I had to ride with someone, maybe it would be Jordan, one of the older senior
Okay,
members
yeah.
that were down the
Because
apartment.
it would be so weird. Like it would be like our dad asking us for a ride somewhere.
Like, hey, can you take me to the movies?
You just gave me a fine yesterday.
Same cost of gas.
One more question, just for me, because we're getting into the RA territory again.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy doing room inspections?
I hated them, dude. I felt like they were stupid. Just because I felt like we're adults. The only thing I would say this, I think the only upside to doing inspections is that people who are really messy and it starts smelling, you have that in check. Other than that, you're kind of just like, dude, it's your life. You know, you're an adult, do whatever you want. But when it starts affecting the rest of the community, and you used to have like smells like a dead skunk in your room, we got a problem.
Two things, because there was a skunk room. I'll get to that in a second. But do you remember the kimchi incident with Samsung and it really smelled bad? Because I don't even remember that for some reason.
Dude, I remember anytime he put something in the microwave or whatever, dude, it was strong. It was definitely strong.
Yo, can you imagine we didn't have like an Indian person, like someone from India on our floor? Imagine the curry we would smell. I like curry.
I like curry. I like curry.
Yeah. The other thing is, do you remember, and then I have one more question after this. Do you remember Adam and Anthony in the dark room that smelled like pizza and BO?
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it's like this really skinny kid, Adam, that he would go to the bathroom and go poop, and it would take 1 minute, and then you would hear because he would scratch his butt with the tissue. Too much information. Do you remember that hat? I think me and you were.
This
in
is
there
so
one time.
detailed. I don't remember.
It was either
this,
me and you or me and Tim, and we were in there, and he was like really rubbing his butt like a lot, like with just one piece of tissue. But anyway, what was the other thing? There was something else, and I can't remember right now. So I'll throw it over to Hat until I remember it.
I'm sure Buddha will.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember.
Oh, see,
All right, so I've been asking this to almost everyone, and I used to say who's the weirdest guy and who's the coolest guy, but we're all pretty much cool. So, who was the weirdest guy on 24 that you remember, and who was the smoothest guy other than yourself? Okay, smoothest guy, weirdest guy, and smoothest guy.
Well, I think the weirdest one was the Korean kid, man. He was just a different, even for a Korean. You didn't even know what to like consider. You didn't even know how to consider him because he wasn't really.
He was almost like a gang member.
I don't even know what he would like. I would even consider because he wasn't acting Korean because Koreans, and that's like stereotype. But then they weren't acting like him, right? I mean, if you and yeah, he would be the weirdest one because he was a very weird individual. But the coolest guy on the floor, man.
Or smoothest.
Smoothest, just smoothest. You know what? I'll tell you this. I think Jordan was smooth. Like he was low key smooth, and he had the looks. He played the instrument, and yeah, he'd like be on like The Voice right now, dude, and like kill it. You know. So Jordan, I would give it to Jordan.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, that pretty much concludes the question segment. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through these podcast plugs real quick. At that point, I think we're going to kind of slowly close out. So I'll give Buddha a chance to say anything he wants to say. I'll kind of say some stuff as well, and then Carlos, I'll give you the floor to close us out.
All right,
so
brother.
Let me do these plugs really quick. If you guys got Twitter and you want to follow us on Twitter, I pretty much just post when the episodes get posted. Our handle for Twitter is @24down podcast. If you want to email us, you're not going to want to email us. Nobody emails, so I'll just skip that one. We got 2 Facebook pages. We got the Facebook podcast page where you can like and follow along. We also have a private group page. If you are not in that group page, message some people you know within the 24 Down family, and I guarantee you we'll be able to get you in there. I have no problem adding anybody within the 24 Down extended family. I'm just keeping it private so we don't have random people that don't even know what Valley Forge is join the group. So, find those groups, reach out. You get more information as far as like, again, when the podcast episodes post. You get information on, hey, who's coming up, so you can participate and ask questions, that kind of thing. We're also on YouTube, so you can watch this podcast via YouTube. And then lastly, our Store Frontier, our merch page, storefrontier.com/24down. We got a bunch of different designs. More designs are coming, I'm sure, but there's a ton. Hopefully everybody can find something they like. But yeah, so check that out if you want to get a shirt. with that, I know Buddha had to take off, but let me say a few things here, Carlos. Then I'm going to let you close out. On behalf of Buddha, I want to say, like, I know he and I both really, really, like, I think if nothing else, both of us early on were like, we need to get Carlos on this. A, because we both wanted to apologize to you, but B, like, as much of a hard time as we gave you, you were very important in our lives. So he actually just messaged me real quick because he had to get off. So I'm just going to read you his message here. And
That's
he
cool.
says, Carlos, it was definitely a modern day miracle finding you and getting you on this podcast. I'm so happy that we did this. You had a vision of 24 Down being a family, and that is definitely what has happened. Praying for you, love you, Buddha out, I drop. I think he meant to say mic drop, but whatever. So, and I'm just gonna go on top of that, man. Like we gave you such a hard time many times, and what I was telling him that I think speaks to your character is that, like, there's all these stories of, like, yeah, we did this and gave you a hard time, and like we all remember this and that, and you don't have that, like, like, you don't have this, which you very rightfully could have, this negative view on things that we did, and you just let it be, and you remember 24 Down for what it is. And I think that's a huge aspect of your character and the person that you are. I'm so glad that you are back, part of this family again. It killed me for that, like, week and a half, 2 weeks when I finally got a hold of you until episode 24. I wanted to tell people that I got a hold of you. I also wanted you in the Facebook pages so you could just get it, like, so it was hard for me for that, like, week and a half, 2 weeks to, like, hold that and, like, wait. But, like, now I'm so glad you're here, and I really appreciate you being on. Like I tell everybody, this is part 1, so you are more than welcome to come on for part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever it takes. But with that, I will let you say whatever you would like to say to close us out.
Yeah, no, man, I definitely appreciate being a part of this and being on this episode. I think you are really, once again, taking this 24 Down family into this next chapter. And, I think that's something special and something, like I said before, to be proud of. And, with the right vision, the right, ambition, I hope that this becomes something greater than just a podcast, but a brand. And years later, we can say, well, we were part of that, we were part of that. And that's really the something that I look back on, like, wow, who would have thought, 24 Down now has its own podcast. I mean, it's just insane to even think about, man. It really is. And, and that's starting with you. And that takes, once again, to what I was saying before, you went from eventually to making it happen. And a lot of people just stay in that space of eventually. And it takes a lot of, I think, ambition, hard work to want to put yourself out there. Because it's risky, right? I mean, you're putting things out there that you can, and you're just being honest, and you just want a family to get together and share moments that they've had, and hopefully now create new moments. And that's something that's vital for the continuation of relationships, is living in a way where you're living, we like to say, deliberately, and and to live, ultimately living deliberately, my friend. I mean, that's something that's vital, vital to really reaching those goals, reaching your goals in life, reaching your goals in your relationships, reaching your goals and your finances. Because without living deliberately, then you're just living vicariously throughout the world. But that's huge for me, brother, is that 24 Down, the family, me seeing people have kids now, dude, that blows me away. That's something that's just amazing, that we're all grown up now. And, my hope is that though all 24 down continues to live deliberately and they live full lives. You know, they enjoy their lives and hopefully have success in many areas of their family, because there's nothing like having family, happiness, joy, and fulfillment in these chapters of their lives. Um, but all that really requires being deliberate in everything you do. And hopefully, brother, that as you continue with this podcast, it's a podcast that continues to unite deliberately people in a way where it continues the legacy that was started years ago, and that's now more than a building. It's a channel now. And that's awesome, dude.
Well, I I appreciate that all, and I can't thank you again for coming on here. I I guarantee you, I speak right now for everybody within the 24 Down family. We love you, brother. We really do.
Yeah, man. Now you guys will always be in my heart, man. I mean, it's definitely, you know, a part of my life that I will definitely cherish and continue enjoying in memories and now in podcasts.
All right, man. Well, we'll sign off now for now. And again, I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And we'll
All right,
talk to
brother.
you soon.
All right.